Welcome to the Unit 1 Part 3 video. These notes are a little bit longer because we're covering all of the integer operations, which last year was probably like 3 or 4 different sections for you. But we're going to cover it all in one video here. Now, with that being said, since a lot of this is review, a lot of it I'll just leave for you to do, and you can just kind of go through it as fast as you can go through it. So, the first integer operation we're going to talk about is adding integers. So I copied and pasted these rules out of the book. If this is unclear to you or how I explain it's unclear to you, just let me know in class and I'll go through it with you again. But a couple of reminders. So number one says same sign, you're going to add the absolute values and use the common sign. So if they're both positive or they're both negative, you're just going to add them together and give whatever sign it is. Okay, so that's not too difficult. When they're different signs is when it gets a little bit harder. You're going to subtract the lesser absolute value from the greater absolute value and use the sign of the number with the greater absolute value. So the absolute value part kind of throws off. I like to say we're going to take a big minus the little and use the sign of the big. Okay, the bigger number minus the smaller number. When you don't look at the positive and negative part, the bigger minus the smaller, take the sign of the bigger. And then the last one is opposites. The sum of a number and its opposite is always 0. So 7 plus negative 7 is 0. Negative 4 plus 4 is 0. Always going to be 0 that way. Okay, so let's look at adding integers. Again, I'm going to do a couple of examples, and then I'll let you guys go for it. So for number 1, we have negative 51 plus negative 23. So the sign is the same, so we're just going to add the absolute value. So 51 plus 23, and that's going to give me 74. Now, since they're both negative to begin with, my final answer is going to be negative. For number 2, we have 29 plus negative 48. The signs are different, so I'm going to subtract the bigger absolute value minus the smaller absolute value, or just the bigger digit minus the smaller digit. So what I mean by that is I'm going to do 48. If you notice, for right now, I dropped the negative sign. 48 minus 29. 48 is bigger than 29. 48 minus 29. Okay. When I subtract those, I get 19. Now, to determine the sign, I take the sign of the bigger one. 48 was bigger, and it was negative, so my final answer is going to be negative. Number 3, I have negative 15 plus 27. Again, opposite signs. So I take the bigger one, which is 27, minus the smaller one, which is 15. When I subtract those, I get 12, and I take the sign of the bigger one. 27 was bigger, it was positive, so my final answer is positive. All right, I'm going to let you guys try 4, 5, and 6. Remember, if you want full credit, I need to see the work for all of those. And when you come to class, or if you're in class, make sure you check the answer for you. If you look further down this page, now we're adding more than 2 integers. Okay? So when we do this, you can go left to right. You can move things around. It's whatever is easier for you. Okay? Also, be sure you're looking for opposites as well in case you can get rid of things. So what I'm going to do on the first one, I have 2 negatives and a positive. So I'm going to do negative 9 plus negative 4 first. So just rearrange those because I think that'll be easier to do. So if the sign is the same, I just add them. 9 plus 4, okay, which is 13. They're both negative, so that's going to be negative. So I have negative 13 plus 12. Now the signs are opposite. So I do the bigger one, which is 13, minus the smaller one, which is 12. That gives me 1. I take the sign of the bigger one, which was the negative 13. So my final answer is negative 10. Okay. Now, that's the way I do it. You do not have to do it that way. If you think you have a way you like better, do it your way. Okay? I'm going to let you guys do number 2. I'm going to skip over to number 3. It says 55 plus negative 26 plus 47. Again, I have 2 positives and a negative, so I'm going to choose to do the positives first. 55 plus 47. Let's have a gray part. 55 plus 47 is going to give me 102. Okay, and since these are both positive, it's going to stay positive. And then I'm going to add negative 26 to that. Now, these are opposite signs, so I'm going to do 102 minus 26. Big minus the smaller. Okay, when I do that, I'm going to get 76. I take the sign of the bigger one, which is 102, so this stays positive. Coming down to number 4, I wrote this wrong on the note sheet. Okay, so this should say -5 plus 4 plus -5 plus 3. I accidentally put the 4 and the -5 together. So I have 4 numbers here. I have 2 negatives and 2 positives. So I'm going to add the negatives together first. -5 plus -5. Sign is the same, so I just add them. 5 plus 5, which is 10. And they were both negative, so now it's negative. Then I'm going to add plus 4 plus 3. I add those 2 positives together, and I know that's 7. That's pretty straightforward. Now I have -10 plus 7. Opposite sign, so I subtract bigger minus smaller, gives me 3. I take the sign of the bigger, which is negative. I'm going to let you guys do number 5. So on this page, you're doing 2 and 5 from there, and you're doing 4, 5, and 6 from the first part. Make sure you get all those done. Make sure you check them with the answer too. The next part says to evaluate the expression when x equals -8 and y equals -5. Okay? So we've talked about this before. When we evaluate, that means I'm just plugging in the values. So x I'm going to replace with -8, so -8 plus 15. They have opposite signs. So big one, which is 15, minus the small one, which is 8. 15 minus 8 is 7. Take the sign of the bigger one, which is the 15. Okay. Again, pretty straightforward. I'm going to skip over 2. I'm going to let you do that. I'm going to come to number 3. I plug in -8 for x plus -5 for y. Okay, I put parentheses because I have plus and then the negative sign, so just to separate. The signs are the same, so I just add them. 8 plus 5, that gives me 13. They're both negative, so my final answer is -13. I'm going to skip over 4 and jump to number 5. Okay, so I have -8 plus -5 plus -8 plus -5. Everything's negative, so I can just add everything together. Okay. And I'm going to put the 8's together and the 5's together. 8 plus 8 is 16, 5 plus 5 is 10. That's going to give me 26. All of them were negative, so my final answer is negative. Okay. You guys take care of 2 and 4. Make sure you check them with my answer. Okay. Moving along, we're now on subtracting integers. Okay. Now, the rule for subtracting integers is just real quick. To subtract an integer, you add its opposite. So we're going to take subtraction and turn it into addition, and then you're applying all the rules we just did for addition. So this should be reviewed, but here's what I mean by that. I have 5 minus 7, so I'm going to write 5. I'm going to turn that subtraction into addition, and then I need the opposite of 7, which is -7. Okay? So subtraction becomes addition, 7 has to become its opposite, -7. Now I just use all the rules that I did before. So they have opposite signs, so I'm going to subtract bigger minus smaller, which gives me 2. The bigger number was negative, so my final answer is negative. Let's look at number 2. I have a 1. Subtraction becomes addition. I need the opposite of -8, which is 8. And this is just straightforward. 1 plus 8 is 9. I'm going to let you guys do number... Actually, I'm going to do number 3 and then let you guys go. Okay, so I have -5. Subtraction becomes addition. I need the opposite of -17, which is +17. Okay. Opposite signs, so I subtract bigger one minus the small one, which is 12. Take the sign of the bigger one, which is positive. Okay. 4, 5, and 6, I'm going to leave up to you guys. You try them on your paper. Make sure you check them with the answer key. Moving down. Now it says evaluate the expression with x equals -4 and y equals -3. Okay, so again, we're just plugging in those values and solving from there. So for the first one, I plug in -14 for x minus I plug in -3 for y. To do subtraction, I have to add by the opposite. So -14, subtraction becomes addition. The opposite of -3 is +3. Now since I'm adding opposite signs, I do the bigger one minus the smaller one. That's going to give me 11. The bigger one was negative, so my final answer is negative. 2 and 3, I'm going to let you do because those won't be too complicated. And if you look at the back, I'm going to go over one of these because these are going to get a little bit harder. Okay, so I'm going to go over number 6 for you. So I have 15 minus, I need to plug in y. Y was negative 3 minus 7. Right? So I'm going to go left to right. I'm going to rewrite 15. Subtraction becomes addition. The opposite of negative 3 is 3. Then subtraction becomes addition. The opposite of 7 is negative 7. 15 plus 3 is straightforward. That's just 18. And I have plus negative 7. Now I have opposite signs, so I subtract 18 minus 7 is 11. I take the sign of the bigger one, which is 18. 4 and 5, I'm going to leave it up to you guys. Make sure you get them done. Make sure you check them with the answers. Moving on, we have multiplying and dividing now, which is a lot more straightforward. Okay, so again, this whole thing is just copied out of the book, but the big thing is when I multiply or divide, if they have the same sign, it's positive. If they have different signs, it's negative. If I multiply by 0, I get 0. If I do 0 divided by a number, I have 0. Okay? So, for the first one, I have 25 times negative 5. 25 times 5 is 125. I have a positive times a negative, so I know my answer is negative. When you have 3 numbers, I like to figure out if it's going to be positive or negative first, and then actually multiply. So I have a negative times a negative, which is going to give me a positive, and I have a positive times a negative, it's going to give me a negative final answer. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 times 5 is 60. So I'll wind up with a negative 6. Okay. 3 and 4 I'll leave for you guys. Number 1 here, I have 28 divided by 14, which is 2. They're both positive. Final answer is positive. Okay. Number 2, negative 26 divided by 13 is also 2, but I have a negative divided by a positive, so it's a negative answer. Okay. Number 3, negative 220 divided by 11 is going to give me a negative, but then the negative divided by negative is going to give me a positive. Okay, so 220 divided by 11 is going to give me 20, and then 20 divided by 4 is going to give me 5, and I already said my answer is going to be positive. Okay. Number 4, I'll leave to you guys. Scrolling further down, now I have a mix of multiplication and division. Okay, so a little bit of both. So I'm going to figure out if it's positive or negative first. So negative 2 times negative 4 is going to be positive, and then divided by a negative is going to wind up with a negative final answer. 2 times 14 is 28. 28 divided by 7 is 4, so I'll have negative 4. Okay. Now, if you don't like to do it the way that I've been doing it, you can actually go step by step. So what I mean by that is, I can just worry about 12 times negative 3, which is negative 36, and then do negative 36 divided by negative 6, and give me a positive 6. So you can, I like to figure out the power first. You don't have to do that. You can just work it out step by step. 3, I'll leave to you. And then moving on to what I think is the last page. Yeah, moving on to the last page. It's a quick review of mean, median, mode, and range. Okay? So, there are 3 measures of central tendency. That's mean, median, and mode. It's called central tendency because it comes towards the middle, towards the center of it. Range is a measure of dispersion because it's how far apart things are. Okay? So just to review, to find the mean, we add up all the values, and then we divide by how many there are. The answer is our mean. For the median, we put them in order from least to greatest. We cross them out from the outsides. The number in the middle is our median. For our mode, it's the number that shows up the most, okay, the most frequent, and then the range is the biggest number minus the smallest number. So, to find the mean, I'm going to add up all of these numbers, which I already did. I'm not going to write them all out again. But when you add all those up, you get 130. Now there's negatives and positives, so you have to take both of those into account when you're adding. Then I divide by how many there are. There's 13 values. So the mean is going to be, there's 10 values, my bad, 10 values. So the mean is going to be 13. I'm going to skip and go to the mode next because I need more room for the median. So the mode is just the number that shows up the most. So I have 2 3s, actually 3 3s, and everything else just shows up once. So my mode is going to be 3. For my range, I do the biggest number minus the smallest number. The biggest number I have on here is 89, minus the smallest number is negative 35. So when I subtract those, remember we said to subtract, we change it to addition and add by the opposite. So subtraction becomes addition, the opposite of 35, of negative 35 is 35. With even 89 plus 35, you get 124. So that's my range. Okay? Make sure you get that written down, and I'm about to erase all of that. Now, I erased all that to give me room to do the median. Okay? So the first thing you want to do when you're doing the median is to put all the numbers in order from least to greatest. Okay? So I have negative 35, and then I have negative 14, and then I have negative 8. I have 3, 3. I have 19, 26, 44, 89. Now, when I did all of these mean, median, mode, range, the first thing I do is put it in order from least to greatest. You might want to do that as well. Okay. So once I have them in order, I'm going to cross them off from the outside. So that goes away, that goes away. Negative 14, 44, negative 8, and 26, 3, and 19. Now I get to a point where I have 2. Okay, if I cross them off and only had 1 left, that would be my median. Okay, since I have 2, I need to find the average of this, okay, or the mean of it. Add them together, divide by 2. Now since they're both 3s, I know that my median is going to be 3. All right, on the bottom are 4 review problems. Those are all left to you. Make sure you get them all done and grade them from the answer key. I apologize for such a long video, but we put a whole bunch of stuff into one section. So that's unit 1.